Hi, I'm Rosemary Armeo, and I'm bringing you this week's edition, this week's chapter of an Armeo on the Brink. We are extremely lucky, I think, in Albany County. That's my opinion, my podcast, so I can give my opinion. We are very lucky in the sheriff that we've had for a long time now, Craig Apple. Sheriff Apple began working in law enforcement back in 1987, if I have that right. He rose up through the department, did all the jobs, corrections officer, deputy sheriff, and then since 2011 as the sheriff himself. In that job, he now oversees nearly 750 employees and a budget of $100 million. And we're not going to talk about really any of that. He is most known, I think nationally, maybe internationally, for his innovative community engagement programs and other programs to enrich inmates' experience. They don't just go to jail there. There are things that the sheriff's heroin addiction recovery program, cute name, S.H.A.R.P, and the sheriff's inmate fire training program. He has enrolled inmates in Obamacare because he's trying to make inmates part of a community, have a real life again. And most recently, he's opened up unused space in his jail for the homeless people of the area, which is the Capital District of New York. I'm really most interested in that. Why is this not common, Sheriff Apple?
I really wish I had a great answer for you on that. I don't know. When I saw a spike in our homeless population a few years back, probably 21, 22, and I'm like, my gosh, here we are in what is known as the greatest state in one of the greatest republics. And why is that? So at the time, our census was dropping a little bit, and I'd like to say it was because of some of the great work and programs that the men and women at the jail were doing. And we had some open space. So, we looked at it on a typical day. Our jail, Rosemary, holds about 1,000 people. And at the time, our population was about 400. And I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe we can try to redesign something and kind of deinstitutionalize it and make it kind of hospitable. I mean, it's still a jail, don't get me wrong, but I thought we could do something better than having our men and women sleeping on the streets in our capital district. So we ended up taking a relatively newer part of the jail because of the egress and ingress. It was much easier. So we did it and had the laborers union come over, local 2, and of the bricklayers, and they come over and cut a big hole in the wall. And obviously that's not something you like to do in a correctional facility, but they cut it. They spent a whole weekend cutting that hole. I mean, I don't think I'll ever get them back there. And we put a doorway in, and we removed bars, and we put in Luan doors, and we put in a imitation hardwood floor. We put chandeliers in. And again, we tried to deinstitutionalize it. And I think we did a really good job of that with our community partners, which was SEFCU, now Broadview. They were a huge, huge partner in this. I mean, I probably could not have done it, at least to this level, without them. And we opened our doors during COVID. And we would talk to inmates as they were getting out and ask them if they wanted a safe haven, if they had a place to go. A quick stat, I'm not a big numbers guy, but a quick stat at that time were 66% of the men and women getting out of prisons and county correctional facilities had nowhere to go. So what do you think they're going to do, right? People wonder why, you've got recidivism rates the way they are and crime the way it is. They're going to go back to what they know once they get out there and realize there's nowhere for them to go. So it was slow. Honestly, it was very slow at start. Some of the men and women getting out were like, I just spent 300 days there. I'm not spending another night there. And I'm like, well, I understand that. But the folks working there were not wearing uniforms. They are civilians. It's kind of like a halfway house shelter, so to speak. So, those who know me know I'm a cigar guy, and I walk the city of Albany every day. And I would come across, men and women that were homeless, and I'd be like, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I can offer you at no cost and no big expectations. And some would take me up on it. Some would tell me to kick rocks and get lost. And those who would take me up on it, I would say, listen, I'm probably going to have a police car come and get you. You're not under arrest, but we're just taking you to a place where you can get, warm meals
Yeah,
and have a
yeah.
safe night's sleep. And several have taken me up to it, to the point today, as of this morning, it's probably like 530 have
Wow.
taken me up, and it's been incredible. It's far exceeded my expectations. I think it's far exceeded all of my employees' expectations. The men and women inside the jail that work there are like, it's the greatest thing. And they talk to the guys and girls getting out, and like, if you don't have a place to go, you really should explore this.
That's
And
amazing.
it's been incredible.
Has there been any pushback? I think the Trump administration is showing we're not exactly a generous, warm people, especially if there's any hint that these are not perfectly good people. Have you gotten any pushback from people in the community who don't like to see you helping out people?
I've gotten pushback, but it's probably not those you expected. I've gotten pushback from other shelters. I've gotten
Wow.
pushback from those who deal with homeless. I've gotten pushback from those elected to lead. Um, yeah, I absolutely did.
And
And
what do the shelters have against this? That people shouldn't be in jails?
Well, it really has nothing to do with the jails. I think my program is run much differently. So if you got out on a Monday and chose to come over to our place, it has its own mailing address. It's separate from the jail. There's a wall built in between
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
We are 800 Albany Shaker Road. The jail is 848. So if you come over to our address, we give you a day to kind of orient yourself, and then we sit down and we have an assessment with you, and we say, listen, what's it going to take? What do you need? And whether it's PTSD, mental health, addiction, whatever it is, we'll get it for you, in hopes that you'll live a healthy and productive life that we all probably take for granted.
Is this a costly program for
No,
the
it's
county to
not.
operate?
No, it's not. So that's the misnomer, right?
Right.
A,
That's the thought.
we
You're
don't charge
feeding them, you're
anybody.
giving them free rent. How
Well,
can this not be
and I
expensive?
did early on. I got attacked by some folks that are not really in line with forward thinking programs. But I tried to explain to them. I said, let's just take this for 1 second and think about it. A lot of our homeless in the cold winter nights are freezing and starving. So where do you go? You go to the hospital and you tie up a nurse, a
Mm-hmm.
doctor, a bed, and you get a free meal. And then you say, okay, I'm better. And you get released from the hospital. That all gets billed. It's not free. So the
Mm-hmm.
federal government and the state get those bills. And then a few hours later, they come back and they, have some sort of fictitious ailment, and they get treated again, and they get warmed up, and they get fed, and they've tied up a nurse, a doctor, and a bed, and so on and so on and so on. So when you factor all of that, and you factor what the cost of incarceration is in the state of New York, which is ungodly right now,
Mm-hmm.
years ago, Como put it at $70,000. I got to imagine in this environment right
Mm-hmm.
now, we're encroaching on at least 90, if not $100,000 a year. So when you look at the cost of this, we're saving you
Yes.
money.
And the social service people have what sort of objection to what you're doing?
They don't have a major objection. It's just, listen, this is new.
Yeah, anything you
You've
try
now,
new.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you've now got a law enforcement guy helping out our homeless. And the whole theory behind this was to keep people coming back,
Right.
and also help people that are down and out on the street, give them three hots and a cot, and
Mm-hmm.
and try to get them on a path.
Right.
And I got to tell you, I'd be remiss if I didn't indicate that I've had people graduate Hudson Valley while in there. I've had kids in South Colony on honor roll in there. I've had people reunited with their family after 20 years of homelessness on the streets. All not that we have a magic wand, but that we actually listened and gave a little bit of support. And what I
Mm-hmm.
mean by that is the one individual had been separated. He'd been estranged from his daughters and family for decades. He needed mental health meds. He needed the
Mm-hmm.
bare necessities. You know what I mean? Nothing big.
Right.
The fella who graduated Hudson Valley, he was down and out. He was living under a bridge. He went to the shelter. He was raped. And he went back under the bridge because he's like, I can't even stay at the shelter. And we found him and we brought him in. He graduated Hudson Valley. He's now at SUNY Albany
Wow,
and thriving.
that's
I
awesome.
mean, the success stories are unbelievable. We've had people graduate our program and $14,000 in cash and put it in a bank because we teach them. Listen, let's get you ready, job prep ready, right? So let's do a resume. Let's get you dressed, show
Hmm.
you how to
Hmm.
dress for success, show you how to do the interview, show you
Hmm.
how to save a paycheck and start a budget and do all the simple things that we've been doing for decades. But some of these people, when they get released from jail or have been on the street with no support, have no idea
Right,
what's going on.
right, right. They're less. Okay, has the idea spread? Are you hearing from other sheriffs who are
So
trying
I've
this?
Yeah, so I've heard from sheriffs all across the country. We are literally the only county jail in the country doing this.
Amazing.
I hear from a lot of sheriffs that want to do it, but again, this isn't a cookie cutter, right? So whatever works in Albany may not work in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that's I say that because I had a group of mental health professionals and the sheriff reach out for me from Tulsa, and they wanted to do it, and a few other sheriffs, several other sheriffs in the New York area wanted to do it. But it really depends on where your jail is located, how your jail is set up, and can you afford this kind of traffic in and out. Me,
Hmm.
yes, it was perfect for me because fortunately or unfortunately, back in the 90s when crack cocaine was going through the roof, we built onto this jail with a bunch of fingers off of like a
Hmm.
nucleus.
Hmm.
And we built it with, you know what, if you build it, they will come. And crack cocaine was going crazy and the jail was running at 900 to 1100. And as things settled down and some of these reforms took place, the census dropped. So for me, this was an ideal setup.
Right.
A lot of jails may not have that.
Right. You're being kind to them. They also just may not have the guts to try it. And you've had a couple failures. I was witness to one of them. I was working with the Friends of the Colony Library, and they
Mm-hmm.
do the book nook at the crossings. This is
Yes.
the county park, the town park. And we had some inmates from the jail come over. They had guards with them, and mostly they were there to lift boxes, but they were great, and they were suggesting ways to organize the books or
Mm-hmm.
different displays things that we had never thought of. We loved it. People in the park complained. They didn't want
Yeah.
inmates near their kids. You had to pull
That's true
back on
story.
that.
Yeah, true
Yeah.
story. I also would, so everybody was like, oh my God, Apple's running chain
Yeah.
gangs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had people volunteer to go on a program to go out and paint fire hydrants and park benches. And some residents would go crazy. And I'm like, would you really think we're sending our murderers and our
Yeah.
rapists out there? These are the low level guys, right? This is the low stuff that nowadays nobody even goes to jail for. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, we've had
Right.
some people complain. And listen, when I was building the shelter, there was a certain community that was ripping mad that I was doing this because they said the homeless would be wandering all over their neighborhood. Well, in order to do that, they would have to walk through the airport, through a cemetery. Yeah, it was ridiculous. And I'm
It
like,
is
folks,
crazy.
we release inmates every day. Are you aware of that? Some of them
Yeah.
walk out. These are
Yeah.
not inmates. These are
Yeah.
homeless.
You also have a partner in the Master Gardeners of Albany County. I'm a member
Yes.
of that. And this summer, we worked on a program where inmates came. Again, there were
Mm-hmm.
people with them, and they were delicious, really. There were a lot of teenage boys, some of them wearing like hoodies and sweatsuits in that hot weather. And we're making them dig in the dirt and trying to get them to marvel at the miracle of growth. It was really hysterical, and
Yeah.
they were great.
We brought that program back to the jail. We grow hundreds of pounds of vegetables every year.
Talk about that a little. That was really these they were cooperative, they were helpful, a bunch of little old ladies and the
Yeah.
teenagers who were in jail basically for things like shoplifting and
Stupid stuff. Yeah.
threatening their baby mamas and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So they're not dangerous. They're really kind of misguided.
Yeah. A lot of those programs have gone by the wayside as a result of some of the bail reforms and, of course, the violence that we have in the jails now. So I'm not comfortable right now, Rosemary, sending anybody out on the street. And it's
That's
sad.
a shame.
It really is. And, everybody's like praising bail reform. And listen, I'm not against bail reform. some of the reforms needed to take place. But what it really did was it also hindered my ability to teach people things. And I'm not saying that jail is the perfect place to teach people, but it was the only place at that time.
Right.
And what I mean by that is teaching people skill sets and how to cook and how to clean kitchens and go out. And it was just, you know what? A lot of those kids that went out on those programs never came back.
Wow. Wow. We are talking to those of you just joining us with Craig Apple. He's the longtime and really quite amazing sheriff of Albany County. And I should be moving on because I have all kinds of questions for you, Sheriff. But I do want to talk a little bit more about the programming that you have tried and you kind of continue to experiment with at the jail. It is unique in the country. Another one I liked was the prison yoga. How did that work?
So
how'd that idea come about?
Actually, so her name is Nikki Rogers. She lives down in the city, and she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I really would like to do this. I've seen it done throughout the country." And I'm like, yeah, let's try. Listen, I'm not afraid to fail. I mean, I'll try anything. Some of the programs work, some of them don't. My main goal is to release somebody that paid their debt and release a better person, somebody that's not going to come back. And at the same time, crush another one where we can keep the violence down, keep people from fighting, keep them occupied, keep them busy. Right. And that's the biggest thing inside that jail. So, Nikki would come in and she would do prison yoga.
Excuse me, you said the city. Did you mean Albany or New York City?
I'm sorry. Albany.
Okay.
Okay. Albany. She lived down in Albany. Still does. And she was awesome. She'd come in and do the prison yoga and loved it, and people were enjoying it. And again, it's just another thing that with COVID and everything else, we had
kind of lost.
Kind of lost it.
Do you still have pets in the jail?
So we have some dogs, not as many as I have before. It's Rosemary. The whole jail is a different population right now. It's there's a lot of violence.
Different than pre-COVID?
Yes, major difference is there's a lot of violence. And I know a lot of people were upset when the state COs went out on strike and they said this is their job, blah, blah, blah. But the violence in the county jails and in the state prisons right now is at a level that nobody ever expected and nobody saw coming. And violence in my county jail right now is up against my officers 260%, against inmate on inmate 300%.
Over what year are you comparing?
Over 22 and 23.
Wow.
Yeah, it slowly has escalated. And the reason being, and, you know, I will debate this all day with a lot of people that'll probably listen to this and go, that's BS or whatever. But the reason is pre-bail reform, you had a whole mixed bag of prisoners. You had people in from misdemeanors. You had folks in for violent felonies, middle of the road stuff like a burglary to a garage where nobody was living, things like that. They all blended, right? Mm-hmm. And they would all keep peace amongst themselves. Well, none of those other folks go to jail anymore, right? Mm-hmm. And you can get caught with a loaded gun and not go to jail. Use that gun to hurt somebody, you go. Right. Which, you know what? That's a heinous crime. Mm-hmm. So now you've got all the heinous crimes, all of those suspects in the county jail together. Mm-hmm. And it's become extremely dangerous for the officers and the inmates. We have inmates that have been coming in and out with that revolving door theory for years. A couple of years ago, prior to bail reform, I would house a population of 900. Of the 900, it would be abnormal to have 20 people in protective custody. And what I mean by that are people that, like, you know, I heard you got John Q. Public on the west side. I can't see him. I snitched on him, or whatever the case may be, right? So 20 out of 900. Now I have a population of 560, and I have almost 90 in protective custody.
Wow.
So, you know, obviously it's unbelievable effort to segregate and keep everybody safe, but they do it and they do a good job at it.
They have to do that. So yes. you were then sympathetic to the state correctional officers who staged an illegal strike and walkout. And
I don't want to use the word sympathetic, but I understood. That a person can only take so much. And when you're working 16 hours every single day and you're getting fecal matter and urine thrown at you and food thrown at you, or when somebody comes out of a cell to turn around to be handcuffed, they don't turn around, they punch in the face. Yeah, then,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you advocated for Governor Hochul to back down on her original threat to keep these striking officers away from law enforcement jobs forever. You were on the side of the officers, as I recall.
I was, and well, that's a kind of a two-prong answer. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I understand it was an illegal strike, something that should not have happened, because I also found out after talking with some of the governor's staff that some of these men and women literally at midnight walked right out of the jail and left, inmates unattended, officers in there by themselves. That should never happen. All right. That's an absolute no-no. And that's your primary responsibility. Now, if your shift ended and you were going out to walk, so be it. Can't say I agree with it, but I would understand it with the current circumstances. To bail on the inmates and to bail on the officers is a no-go. Right. But every county jail in every county sheriff's office, I should say, in New York is struggling for men and women to protect the inmates and the officers in the correctional facility. I am not in that category right now. I'm at decent staffing, but I will tell you that the county of Oneida was down 82 positions. So at the same point, think about this, at the same point where they're saying we can't hire any of these men and women who are fully trained to be correction officers, the state is not accepting new state-ready inmates. So you've been sentenced in county court for a burglary or a rape or a murder, and you should be immediately going to state facility. They're not accepting any, and they still are not at the time of this recording. Okay. Right. So they are all backing up in the county jails. So the county jail census is starting to expand exponentially while we can't hire these men and women who are already trained to do it. So it was very frustrating, and it starts that vicious cycle, right? And a lot of people don't understand that. And that's all I was asking them to do is I'm like, listen, you have an opportunity to help a lot of the counties with somebody that's already trained. They're not in state service, which would meet her executive order. And they were going to decertify them. And I'm just like,
what a waste. What a waste.
Yes, what a waste. And again, I'm not agreeing with the Taylor law violation, but what I am saying is that a human being can only take so much. Right. And my phone was ringing, my Facebook was blowing up, our department's social media was blowing up. These men and women wanted to work. They didn't want to work under those conditions.
Wow. It sounds like you're as compassionate to the correctional officers as you try to be to the prisoners. That's my observation. I don't know about that.
Here. I just think that I'm more of a pragmatist, and I always tell everybody, listen, we can find common ground here, right? Yeah. Somewhere in the middle is some common ground. Let's find it and move on.
Okay, so let's talk about migrants now. They're under attack in this country. Is your department going to be under some pressure to help round them out in New York State?
No, not at all. I don't have the greatest working relationship with ICE. I think that's kind of been proven. I don't expect them to call. If they come and give us somebody or want somebody, listen, I will abide by the law as long as you have a warrant signed by a magistrate. That is what takes it to the level where we have to abide. And for years, they were coming in, dropping people with a detainer signed by just that agent. Well, that's no bueno. So what we tell them is, if you come in with something signed by a magistrate, somebody who is an actual judge, we will work with you. Anything less than that, no go.
That judging by what's happening other places, I've not read it in New York yet. That does not seem to be what they're doing. They're just kind of barging in the middle of the night. Right. So your department is not dependent at all on federal funding, are you? There's no club they can use against you.
That's a tricky question, because even a lot of the state grants that come to a lot of the counties are federally funded. So my immediate answer is no. I mean, I don't get that much funding from grants other than just my 911 system. Other than that, it's, minimal.
And I do want to talk about your 911 center. I know you're
Mhm.
proud of that, but let me move on to politics.
Mhm.
You are extremely popular. You easily win elections. The polls always show you have, just a high regard in the county. And at one time, at least, you dipped your toe into the water of state
Yeah.
politics, and then you pulled out. Why was that? And is that still your stance? Is politics in your future?
So, well, it was a couple years ago. It
Yep.
was a brand new Senate district, Senate 43. Um, I'm sure most people know, so this is no secret. I have a house on a over in Rensselaer County,
Hmm.
and I'm like, wow, this is quite an opportunity. It popped up, and I talked it over with my wife, and I think she was a little hesitant to see me make the swap over there as well. And I got to be honest with you, truth be told, I just kind of chickened out by virtue of it was new. It was, you know what? I mean, it was change. I've done this for 38 years. This would be a whole different area I'd be jumping into. Um, and it's also no secret that I fight with the Democrats as much as I love the Democrats. And
Hmm.
I think that I would be up there and I'd be giving up the job that I love to go up there and to fight, because my gripe all along with the Senate and the Assembly has always been, invite us in to talk to us before you make some crazy changes, right? Whether you agree or disagree, let me at least
Just
say,
listen to us.
yes, let me at least tell you what the adverse effect is going to be if you pass this. Because New York is historically known for throwing all kinds of crap out there and, oh, that's messed up. Let's go back in and tweak it. Why don't we just get it right? Just slow down, put the brakes on, and get it right. And so, yeah, I was just, I was honestly, I think more afraid of the change in my own life than anything else. But I certainly haven't ruled it out. I mean, I've got 38 years in this game,
Hmm.
and now more than ever, seeing some of the crazy stuff that comes out of that capital. I think that I almost owe it to people at this point to go up there and fight.
Okay, this sounds like a yes. Look for you in a
Yeah,
future
I'm definitely
race.
not ruling that out. Absolutely.
Okay, okay, that's great. Um, I've been praising you here, and actually, my listeners like when I fight with people. I'm not going to fight with you
I'm
here,
down for that.
but you're not really perfect. You've had some trouble with
Yeah.
audits and the
Yep.
John Cox case from a few
Yes.
years ago. Can you talk about that and what lessons you learned from that experience?
No lessons. Didn't
Okay.
learn one damn lesson.
This sounds defiant.
Yeah, absolutely defiant. All right. So the John Cox case is more, that was more of a failure on my part by virtue of I trusted him. I knew him. His brother to this day is one of my best friends. And I never in my wildest imagination ever thought this person would do that to me.
Okay,
And
set it up for listeners who are not as up on politics and
so
sheriff's department.
John Cox was hired by me to be our head accountant, to manage my budget, to manage my asset forfeiture accounts. And little did we know that there was embezzlement involved, and
Mm.
he was writing checks out of the seizure accounts that we had no way of knowing, and then he'd have people come in and audit, and he would supply what needed to be audited, and obviously the audit would come back clear. So he got us for 143,000, all of which we have recovered. Now, in that,
From him, sheriff, you
yes,
got the money back from him.
all of it was paid back by him as part of his restitution in the federal case. Now, let's get to the audits, because that's where the fun
Hmm.
is. So we got audited by the feds on our seizure account, and they hit me with inappropriate spending. Inappropriate spending because I was funding kids' backpack programs to go home and have food on the weekends. Inappropriate spending because we built a lacrosse field for inner city kids to come out and play on. Inappropriate spending because I paid for basketball courts down in the inner city. I will not apologize for any of that spending whatsoever. We saved kids. We kept kids off the streets. We kept them occupied. We paid for books. We paid for food. We paid for basketball courts. You name it. I will not apologize for any of it. And that's what the audit revealed.
Hmm.
And come to find out, technically in their program, you were not supposed to pay for food, books,
Right.
backboard.
Right.
So we had to shift it and pay it through state funding, which it was allowable. But again, I am not going to apologize for feeding starving kids on the weekend who are going home to impoverished households. Not at all. Not a
Okay,
chance.
you know that sounds really good. Who could not agree with that? But that was a badly administered program. You were responsible for it.
I don't think
There
it was
were
badly. No, I don't think I
there
disagree with you.
were aren't there ways that the federal funds could have gone to what was allowable and then use the state funds for programs such as that?
Well, maybe. But the bottom line is, we had no idea that that was not allowable. First of all, when you look
Hmm.
at the program guidelines, it's extremely broad.
Aha.
Extremely broad.
Okay.
Now, that was A. B, a majority of our seized funds come through federal assets.
Right.
Like probably 90%, maybe 92% of them come through federal seized assets. State is a very small portion. Like as I sit here today, we probably got a couple million in Fed and a couple 100,000 in state. And then there's a Department of Treasury account that needs to be separated, which honestly we didn't know either. Listen, you know what you know, and this was something that was passed down through. I will not make excuses or point fingers. You know, we made the mistake and we owned up to it and we moved on. But I will never apologize for what we did.
Okay, you are listening to a defiant sheriff, Craig Apple from Albany County. We're talking to him about his many innovative programs and some of the failures in the past, and some of the problems. Okay, this is in between, I think, gossip and speculation and analysis. I want to talk to you about Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah.
He's now running for New York City mayor. Think he'll be a good mayor? You supporting him?
Yeah. Well, I don't live in the city, thank God. But listen, everybody tried to draw a line between Andrew Cuomo and us, and myself and David Soares. And listen, the bottom
that
line
was the other guy I was going to ask you about.
Yes,
Former Albany District Attorney David Soares.
The bottom line is this: we got a complaint, and that complaint we investigated, we took statements, and we moved it forward down to criminal court in the city of Albany, and a judge issued a warrant.
Now, wait. Explain it a little bit more. The complaint came from a woman and the complaint was against Andrew Cuomo.
Against the governor.
When he was governor.
Yes, against the governor.
That's not your normal complaint.
No, but it's not a complaint that I'm going to shy away from. I can't listen. It's like when you call 911, do I ask if you're a Republican or a Democrat, right?
I mean, hope not.
If somebody comes with you with a complaint, who you are and what you do really shouldn't have any relevance. Now, does it in some places? Yeah, I'm sure it does. But to me, I'm like, well, you know what? We got thrown the hard ball. This isn't a soft one. Let's investigate it. And we had conferred with the district attorney. Now, listen, a lot of people are like, oh my God, you and David are feuding over this complaint and everything else. No. The bottom line is when the complaint got sent down to city court, it probably should have been moved over to the DA's office for review first. And that did not happen. So I can't say that, anybody tried to screw anybody or anything else. The investigating officer sent it down to police court to have it reviewed and to get some thoughts. And a warrant was issued. So we've almost, at that point, literally just removed the DA's office until an arrest is made. So at that point, of course, somebody down in city court starts calling the press, and all hell breaks loose. And it was crazy for a few days. And then David decided not to prosecute by virtue of he didn't think he could win it. And that's his right. I'm not going to argue with him over it. Do I disagree with him? Yeah, I disagree with him.
Yeah. And you told him that at the time.
Yes. I most certainly did. Yeah.
Did you feel any sort of joy is probably too strong, but like, oh, this is karma when he himself ran into trouble, when the district attorney was in trouble? No,
not at all. Listen, David has been a friend of mine for 20 some years. And what happened to him, I don't wish on anybody. I think it was a horrible mistake. I think anybody that got involved in grants and or anything else knew that was not going to be allowable. but it happened, right? And he paid the consequence ultimately. I don't, David is not like a big social friend. I wish him the best. I think he did a good job as a DA, and he's gone. And now I work with Lee Kinlan on a daily basis. It's business. But no, I didn't get any joy in seeing that happen to anybody. I don't think I'd want that to happen to anybody and have their family and name dragged through the mud. No, not at all. No. Listen, I took a beating over the Como case. Again, I don't regret that. I mean, I have a victim out there still that I needed to handle a matter for. And, and everybody forgets about that. Everybody thinks because you're in a high power office and your name is X that everybody's got to, coddle you. That's not how the law is supposed to work.
Right. And so now Cuomo is in New York City running. Do you have any prediction that he will have some of the same problems? He was not prosecuted anywhere. I understand.
Yeah.
Despite what the attorney general suggested, he was never prosecuted anyway.
Right. Listen, it's not going to go away. It's up to the voters in New York. You know what? Listen, when he was governing, he did a good job as a governor. Do I think he was a bully? Yeah, I think he was a bully. I paid the price of that. Years ago, the SAFE Act came through. I disagreed with the SAFE Act because, again, the day they passed the law, police officers in New York State were committing felonies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But let's not talk about that, right? And why was that, Rosemary?
Why?
It's because we rushed a law without talking to the people it mattered to. So we had to change the SAFE Act.
What was the felony that the police officers were
couldn't go near school grounds and high capacity magazines,
and there was no exception.
No, not initially,
because the law was faultily written.
That's right. So that's all we're asking for is just talk to the people that it affects, talk to the people that have to enforce it. It's a very simple process in my mind.
It's so interesting to talk to a law enforcement and public official who speaks common sense, and even when I disagree with what you're saying, it's like, I can see where he's coming from. So this is very refreshing. We're running out of time, but I do want to ask one last question and give you a chance to boast a little. Albany County has a new state of the art 911 center. Can you talk just a little bit about that and what's involved?
Yeah, so we built a brand new 911 system a few years ago. First of all, we replaced the entire antiquated radio system throughout the county to have all emergency responders get on the same radio system. It was horrible. There's so many disparate systems. And it's the one thing that from 2001 that everybody said was needed. So we finally got
9/11. Stop here, because 9/11 really brought that to national attention.
Yes, there would be firehouses with 3-4 portables. There'd be crime scenes with 3-4 portables on the hoods of cars, and you're picking one up and talking. So anyway, fast forward, we changed all that. We built an 800 system. We run now on an 800 system and an LTE system. Like the other day, I was in Virginia, and I literally can talk to my dispatch center in Albany from my radio in Virginia. So that's how good the system is now. So we built a brand new system. We built it big enough to allow for, listen, so many people cannot afford these taxes. Sooner or later, municipalities are going to have to start to consolidate. Horrible word. You're going to get people screaming and yelling that, oh my God, Apple said consolidation. Consolidation and shared services is the wave of the future. We have to do it, or you can't afford to live here anymore. So we built a huge 911 center so the whole county could work out of it. Nobody has taken us up on it yet. But when they do, we'll be ready for them. It's coming because people can't afford to live here otherwise. And that's where you're going to save.
And how unique is this? Is this something that you have followed the pattern from someplace else, or they have followed you?
I have followed the pattern by watching the bills come in to support the other public safety answering points throughout the county. And those bills are creeping like at an unbelievable rate. And that's why we needed to, a couple of years ago, change the law from 33 cents to $1, because we needed the extra revenue. Listen, people want the best. They deserve and want the best 911 system. They want somebody to answer that, be proficient as hell, and get
Right.
that cop or EMS or fireman to their door as soon as possible. And
Right.
that's what we strive to do in Albany County. And that's
Right.
what they deserve to have. But municipalities are starting to falter. There's a certain municipality in our county that we get all of their rollover calls, which means, think about this for a second. The phone has been ringing for 11 rings, and then it'll switch over to us, and then we have to dispatch for them. That happens every day. People deserve better, and that's what we wanted to provide them.
Right. Sheriff Craig Apple of Albany County, thank you so much for being with us. We traditionally end our episodes with a toast. I have my wine here. I don't know. Are you allowed?
I have water tonight.
All right, you have water. Okay. So this toast is to common sense and sensitive local governing, which I think you represent, and to smart law enforcement that is concerned with people first. I think it's a model in Albany County, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much.